So these parents who are grieving not becoming grandparents, I don't know that they necessarily are grieving the loss of their bloodline. I
Mhm.
think that they actually probably raise their children primarily to be hyper individualistic. And their children are just saying, I'm doing exactly
Yeah,
what you raised me to do. Like
yeah.
you told me to think about myself. And so these parents created a terminal generation without realizing that that's what they were
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah.
And the way to stop this is actually very simple. You don't aim your parenting at your children's happiness, but at your grandchildren's happiness. That what you're doing is you are raising your children to be parents of your grandchildren.
Mhm.
And you need to be having that conversation. And just like you said, when your dad moved you guys and said, I'm going to make major sacrifices, in my generation to
Mhm.
set you guys up for
Yeah.
success. I think that part of what's important is actually to talk to your children about the reasons for that, and
Yeah.
that I'm trying to set you up so that you can be an amazing father or mother someday. And
Mhm.
I'm going to try to get us to a certain degree. I'm going to get us to the next stage. Yeah, I want my
Mhm.
ceiling to be your floor, and I want you to make your ceiling my grandchildren's floor. Like
Mhm.
this is how this continues. And I
Yeah.
think that part of the like in our family, this is something that sometimes we just said explicitly, that when we would set up all kinds of things like, why are we buying this house? Why are we moving to this city? Why are we starting this business? Why are we starting this family bank? Like, why are we investing in this way or that way? And I would just say, guys, I'm preparing to maximally bless your ability to have children. And
Mhm.
and so and you and I are going to have an amazing life for the rest of our lives. I'm going to
Mhm.
partner with all five of you to help you maximize both the quantity and quality of the children coming from this family.
Yeah.
Um, and so we've designed everything around that because I believe that's exactly what God called us to do
Yeah.
in Genesis 1 and in Matthew 28. This is our mission.
Mhm.
So it wasn't, for our kids, it wasn't surprising, right? That we had this expectation. We didn't raise them to be hyper individualistic. We raised
Mhm.
them to be able to have and raise our grandchildren. And we're commanded to do that. That the
Mhm.
command to be fruitful is the command to have children, but the command to multiply is the command to have grandchildren. And
Mhm.
these parents that the New York Times is highlighting violated the second mandate of why humanity was created. They were fruitful, but they didn't multiply. And now their children refuse to even be fruitful. Now, I think there's a whole journey of being fruitful, multiply, filling, subduing, and ruling. It's an
Mhm.
amazing journey that God has called every family to be able to go on. And that the fact that we're given the purpose statement of the family right in the first chapter of the Bible is such an advantage. And so I have a lot of like empathy or sympathy for people who aren't believers and who have no access to divine revelation, and therefore they're just sort of like
Mhm.
they're just caught up in whatever trend happens in society. If society becomes hyper individualistic, they're like, oh, I guess we should raise our kids to be
Yes.
hyper individualistic. They have no idea what they're creating. Now, Matt Walsh, who's a Christian, who's a Catholic, the Catholic Church has done a fantastic job in this one area. They really have preserved the
Mhm.
mission of the family and have promoted that mission in ways that I think have really helped society, but has been ignored by many people, many Christians, many Catholics. Um, but man, I find that so important that we need to be talking to our children about being future fathers and mothers. It's like
Mhm.
I think a lot of parents today actually feel guilty if they had a conversation with their 7-year old and their 7-year old daughter and talk to her about what an amazing mother she's going to be, and here are some things that I'm going to train you to do
Mhm.
so that this will really help you when you become a mother,
Yeah.
or my son when you become a father.
Mhm.
The thing that goes off in the hyper individualistic Western mind is, well, they're an individual. Like, how can we possibly tell them that they're going to be a future father or mother? What if they don't want
Mhm.
to be a future father or mother?
Yeah.
And this is why, like, even the gender
Mhm.
debate is so bizarre. It's like, I can't even say if you take this to its logical conclusion, you can't even say to your 7-year old, I want you to be a really, a great woman or a great man, because what if they don't want to be a man or a woman? that's why I think it's actually really, really helpful that the sort of the gender debate emerged, because it really demonstrates the logical conclusion of this absurd level of hyper-individualism. You can't give your kids any direction, because all you care about is that they maximize their free choice. And so you can pour all the resources of the world into your children. But at the end of the day, they can decide to absorb all those resources and make horrible choices that are completely based on their own individual desires, and leave in the dust you and all of their ancestors. And this idea is so bankrupt, and it will completely end all of these bloodlines. It's absolutely unsustainable. It doesn't work. It's unbiblical. And so we need to be really careful, because we're all swimming in the waters where these ideas are being generated.
Yeah. Yeah. One last thing that I'll add on that is that I think one thing that, if you're listening to this as a mom or a dad, and you're wondering, you've got young kids, like, what can you do? The thing I think about often is talk to your kids about the goodness of fatherhood and motherhood, and about the goodness and the joy of family. Because that's what stuck out to me in the Walsh clip, was like this massive drop off in what people are exchanging family for, right? They're exchanging this feast for crumbs, because they don't know any better, right? It's like we talked about in the last the post from Twitter, is like, until you're in it, you can't fully understand what kids bring to your life. But if you grow up in a family where it's normative to talk about how good it is for your kids to see how life-giving it is to be a dad, like that desire is going to start to grow in them. And things like Netflix, or things like this individual lifestyle, or social pursuits, like, those aren't going to hold a flame to what they've seen and experienced the family bringing into their lives. It's going to create that desire for them to carry that on. And like that, I think, is a role that we can play now in the lives of our kids, is to help show them what family is, how beautiful, how powerful, how much joy it brings now, so that those other things pale in comparison.